It's That Nerd Ryan here, and today we're going to be covering Call of Duty Black Ops. We're covering the campaign, a little bit of multiplayer. I already reviewed the zombies, so if you want to watch that, go ahead and watch that video. But our main focus is the campaign. I am going to start with multiplayer. That's basically the multiplayer that I grew up with. Very iconic maps and gameplay. Really, I only did, what's it called? Team Deathmatch, though. But still, it was a very fun multiplayer. So the story is where it gets good. So this isn't the first time that I've played through this story. I did about 14 years ago when the game first came out. It's actually the third game I ever got on PlayStation 3. And funny enough, it's the same copy from what I was playing, which honestly for me really showed because the game started freezing at multiple points just due to, you know, me being a bratty 14-year-old and not taking care of my stuff. But yeah, it's really insane how much stuff is in this story that I didn't catch as a kid, such as the hints to both plot twists being littered throughout the game, and you just don't really notice it until you know the plot twists. We'll get to that. So you play as two characters, mainly Alex Mason, and you also play as Jason Hudson in a few missions, but majority of the 14 missions you're playing as Alex Mason. This takes place between the years 1962 and 1968. So we're in the Cold War era, mainly the Vietnam era. So you start out on the Bay of Pigs invasion, which is invading Cuba and trying to assassinate Castro. You end up assassinating a double and get captured by a man named Dragovich, along with his two other friends, and with Castro, who survived his assassination attempt. But you also get Kurchenkov and Steiner, who are working on you in Vorkuta. You don't get to see what the work is in Vorkuta because you end up... I forgot to mention, the whole majority of the game is a interrogation. You are filling in the gaps through the interrogation. You are seeing numbers, and you don't know why. So obviously this happened in Vorkuta, but you're seeing numbers, you don't know what they mean, and you're trying to piece things together with these two interrogators that are interrogating you. Which, by the way, Black Ops has the most iconic home screen ever. It is literally the military, or the interrogation room. You get to choose for campaign, multiplayer, zombies, and options. You can move around, you could break out and play some old Activision games on a computer in the back or enter cheat codes. But yeah, this was definitely peak Call of Duty. And again, the story does show it. There are some cringy moments, mainly with like musical things. Not saying that the licensed music was cringe. Some of the best licensed music, but no, I'll get to it. So anyways, you are trapped in Vorkuta, where you see Viktor Reznov from World at War as a prisoner. The two of you plot a 8-step escape plan that you break out of Vorkuta, and you specifically break out. Viktor Reznov does not break out. I want to say at this time, but for those... Yeah, I'll say it like this. At this time. Or at least you think. So, later after that, you are reunited with your handler, Hudson, and you go to the Pentagon where you talk to Kennedy. Now, this is one of the first notices of the one of the twists, is as soon as Kennedy shows up, you start hearing numbers in the background. And then all of a sudden, you hallucinate holding a gun up to him, and that ends up not being there. So he fills you in on what you gotta do and blah blah blah. So then you end up reuniting with your teammates Woods and Bowman in Vietnam. You push from Vietnam to Laos to look for Khrushchev and Dragovich and Steiner. And while you are in Nam, you run into Viktor Reznov. Turns out that he is also trying to chase down these three people, conveniently, and he is there to help you whenever it's convenient. So, looking back, obviously as a teenager, I didn't think much of that at the time. As an adult, if I were to look at this through the lenses of not getting spoiled, I would have complained about that until the plot twist happened. For some examples, you're I think one of the first missions where you get into a boat, there's only the soldiers there, and then you, Woods and Bowman, are getting onto the boat. Once you get on, Reznov just kind of appears out of nowhere to talk to you. So you think that was just lazy stuff like that. But we'll talk about the other stuff that lead up to the twists in a minute. But yeah, so anyways, you go through those. It leads up to, we'll get to Hudson's story too, which intertwines to this. But you get up to Laos where you confront Khrushchev, and right before that you are captured again. You're forced to play Russian roulette against your other squad mates. Bowman refuses, and he gets beaten to death, and then they bring out Woods. The two of you break out, and you free prisoners, one of them being Reznov. So you guys try to find Khrushchev, which you successfully do. Woods is killed in the process, and you and Reznov decide to go to Rebirth Island to finish off Steiner. So we're going to stop there for a minute because Hudson's story leads up to that point as well. So Hudson was Mason's handler, but as Mason was doing Vietnam missions after the first one, Hudson went off and doing his own CIA intel missions and stuff like that, which was uncovering what this Nova 6 was. You talk to a scientist that helped research it and everything, who gets assassinated. Then you go to one of the plants. During that, you find out more about it, and then you are sent to Rebirth Island. So during the Rebirth Island mission is where you find out the first plot twist. So as you go through as Mason, you're slowly creeping up to get to Steiner. Then you finally get to his room, and Reznov kills Steiner. After that, it is set back to Hudson entering the island. You get some matching dialogue with everything that's going on. Nova 6 is released, so you have to be in your hazmat suit. What was cool about this is, if you take damage, your hazmat suit is permanently damaged until you die again. Or until you die and are respawned. So that was pretty cool. Once you get in there, you get to the other side of Steiner's room. We also have Dragovich's men coming in to assassinate anybody that's a loose end. But you don't see Reznov killing Steiner. You see Mason killing Steiner. So it turns out that Mason was brainwashed in Vorkuta by Dragovich, Khrushchev, and Steiner to assassinate Kennedy as well as release Nova 6. While that happened, Viktor Reznov would sneak in and also brainwash Mason to kill these men. I forgot to also mention there is a level where you play as Reznov post-World War II, defeating the Germans to get Nova 6, and you're betrayed by Khrushchev and Dragovich, and that's his motive for why he wants to do this. So it turns out Reznov died in Vorkuta. And any time that you've seen him since that point has been a hallucination or you doing whatever. There are hints throughout the entire game that Reznov isn't there. The only person that talks to Reznov is Mason. There are parts where Reznov kind of introduces himself to Woods and Bowman, and they don't even acknowledge him. Another one that is very subtle that I didn't notice is anytime you see Reznov, you hear numbers in the background. You also have that happen when you hear the names Dragovich, Steiner, and Kutrinkov. But you hear numbers anytime Victor shows up. Another big one was you're going through the rat tunnels with somebody, and Reznov shows up, and you talk to him for a second, and the guy turns around and he's like, "What the hell are you talking about? You need to get your shit together." And then he dies, but like stuff like that. Or like there's a part where Reznov says something, Woods goes, "What'd you say?" And then Mason responds. Actually, I think Alex Mason is Black Ops 2. I apologize if I'm getting it mixed up. But Mason replies for what Reznov said. Another one that also hints about Woods surviving is once Woods dies, Mason is knocked out, and he looks up and he sees Woods like, "Get up, we gotta get going, you're gonna be okay." And you see his silhouette, and then it turns into Reznov. Other stuff that was like revealing in that plot twist was like they would always be like, "Where's Reznov? Where's Reznov?" or stuff like that during the interview, or Reznov wasn't there. And then like you'd see like other stuff in like the quick shots about him being MIA or KIA or whatever. So then once Mason starts realizing that this was all a hallucination, he breaks out, starts piecing things together. One of the coolest parts is you get in a certain room that has a bunch of like paper on the ground and TVs, and you see Reznov, and some of the papers turns into screens of Reznov. Also, anytime you see numbers in this level, numbers just start appearing. You finally break the programming and realize where the number station is. By the way, this whole game has a ticking clock that Nova is about to be released. On the United States. So you figure out where it is, and you and Hudson go and stop the ship, and then the underground refueling station that has it. At that point, Dragovich is down there. Mason kills him, blames him for trying to turn him against his own people, and for trying to kill his own president. And Dragovich responds with, "Tried?" And then you finish him off, and you go up, and you got the might of the Navy behind you. And then it cuts to what I would consider a post-credit scene. The numbers start getting read, and Mason starts responding to what the numbers mean. And it turns out that Mason was the actual assassin for Kennedy. There are hints throughout the game. The first one when he sees Kennedy and he hallucinates a gun, or Dragovich saying "tried." But there is one part when you're breaking the sequence of the sleeper cell numbers where he randomly says Oswald compromised. As we know, Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated Kennedy, or is believed to. There's all these conspiracies about what actually happened, which is what this game is kind of playing off of. But just the mention of Oswald compromised obviously means something was going on, or something to do with the assassination. So that's the other plot twist that is hinted out through the whole thing. But yeah, so let's talk about the kind of cringy parts. They mostly just both of them happen at the end, and like one of them I laughed out loud at because it's like they tried to pull a CSI Miami situation where like Hudson asks where you gotta go, and you go, and there's another part with that I found as a plot hole that we'll get into in a second. But you tell him where the boat is, and he puts his sunglasses on and goes da 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 da, like the multiplayer intro music. And it's like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then the other one is when you see the full might of the military, it goes into like some like, I don't even want to call it like light metal music, which I was like is kind of weird. But like the licensed songs in this are fun. We get Sympathy for the Devil, we get Fortunate Son, stuff like that. Obviously, that's amazing. But like stuff like that was stupid. And then the other part that I found was kind of hilariously dumb was the way you hear the numbers about where the boat is Dragovich just announcing, hey, we're moving the location of where you're getting your numbers from. I don't think sleeper cells would care where they're getting the numbers from. Obviously, they don't even know they're sleeper cells. That sounds very compromising, because like you'll hear the numbers, understand what they mean, and be like, huh, did anybody else just hear that they're moving a numbers station somewhere? I don't even know what that means. And then your whole plan is compromised. Or even on that, why would it matter? But yeah, so those were my only gripes with that. But the campaign, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10. Just for those small gripes, I had to take away a point. But yeah, so go ahead, watch my Zombies review if you want to get that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and follow me on all my social media down below. Our next game is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's that nerd Ryan, signing off.